Press the bell icon on the YouTube app to never miss a video from News Laundry.
Welcome to News Laundry Chhota Hafta. For the full episode, subscribe because it is behind the paywall and only subscribers get access to uncut, complete content. News Laundry Hafta is our weekly wrap of all that made the news, all that didn't, and all that should have and all that shouldn't have. We agree, we disagree, we critique, and occasionally we beat each other up. But it's all good fun. Subscribe.
This is a News Laundry podcast and you're listening to NL Hafta.
Yo, what's up, Hafta listeners? This is Abhinandan Sekhri getting you the Hafta from a chilly Delhi with a wonderful panel, a relatively warm room. Let me first introduce the panel to you. We have Manisha Pandey, the host of our hit series Nuisance, which is doing so well. Thank you, Manisha.
Hi.
Our managing editor, Raman Kripal, who has overseen some wonderful stories over the election. Sir, I haven't seen you in a while, but hi.
Hi.
Our editor-in-chief, Madhu Trehan, the pioneering journalist of India. That's for the Punjabis.
Did you say pioneering?
And for the non-Punjabis,
And for the loins.
The lion.
Please,
the loins in
khud wrong pronounce kar diya, then you blame the Punjabis.
I'm Punjabi. Pandey ji, aap to rehne dijiye, pahadi. Anyway. And we have a special guest, a subscriber, a long-time supporter of News Laundry from Bombay. She spends time between Bombay and Boston. Anushka Shah. Hello, Anushka.
Hello. Hi.
So Anushka works as a researcher at the Center for Civic Media at the MIT Media Lab. That's MIT, Massachusetts. Matlab intelligent hai ladki. She works on two projects related to media framing and civic participation. One is called Media Cloud. It's a news analysis platform through which she looks at how the news in India presents various social issues. Well, we shall ask her about that. The second is called Civic Entertainment. It explores how films, television and digital media can improve civic participation through shows like Constitution, I'm guessing.
Yes, that's definitely one good example.
And Nuisance, is that just like Tamasha or is it doing any civic duty?
Doing a civic duty of watching news for people. It's
Correct.
a big
I think it
civic
counts
duty.
with that.
Chalo, Anushka has like kind of tried to pull you out of the hole, but I don't know. She's also founded a production firm in Mumbai called Civic Studio that produces civic entertainment, which is, I guess, educational in nature. And in the past, she has worked with various non-profits and also the Aam Aadmi Party. Really, Anushka?
We have one more connection here.
Yes.
Oh
So-
no.
Oh God.
There's not two of us.
Now there's this collective groan. You see, Raman sir, non-committal, will say nothing. Okay, all that happened in the past week, I would like to start off firmly with this one issue, which is a journalist by the name of Kishore Chandra Wanghemcha in Manipur has been put in jail for 12 months under the National Securities Act for criticizing the state and central governments. He called, a puppet of...
He called BJP Buddhu Joker Party.
Buddhu Joker Party. I think it's shocking.
And he also kind of said things about
I think
this.
that's really cool.
I mean, I don't want to sound like the loony
He gets 1 year.
right on Twitter, but they are always accusing everybody of not standing up for someone who is not from there. I haven't seen anyone stand up for this guy other than the...
If you look at it, Ayarwal was actually lucky that he got out after like 2 months.
Yeah, for
this guy's
2
going
days.
for a year.
But he's appealed in the High Court and he could be let out. Let's see what the High
Hopefully.
Court says. But yeah, this is happening in India. And there'll be the whatabouters and the people with limited IQ and intelligence saying that this has always been happening, so let's not panic. To them, I say, when you plant an acorn, an oak grows. Plant one in your head and hope a brain grows.
Gosh, he's really on an arrogant mode today.
I'm on dick
बहुत
mode.
ज़्यादा arrogance हो गई.
I'm the horrible, obnoxious prick in the house, yo. Then there was the conviction of Sajjan Kumar, long overdue. He has been sent to prison for life. At the same time, in the same week, there is some confusion about what is life. I thought that was settled. I'm wondering if anybody here has an answer to that. But I'll just come to that. Sajjan Kumar, a former Congress member of Parliament, who wasn't given a ticket in the last election, but his brother or sister or someone-in-law was given, है ना sir?
Yes.
They लगाउड a slimy one. हम इसको तो नहीं दे रहे, लेकिन इसके किसी भाई भतीजे को दे दिया था. So, and in the same week, Kamal Nath was sworn in as a chief minister, which led to certain eye rolls, shouting, objections, because Kamal Nath has also been named by a few witnesses.
Yeah.
Although, is there a case pending on Kamal Nath?
There's no
There
case
was
against him.
Right. Then there was a Supreme Court ruling against a CBI probe into the Rafale deal. It says it's satisfied with the process that followed. I mean, people tried to stretch it through, but it got nowhere. Maybe we can discuss some of that. Stalin proposes Rahul as Prime Minister for 2019. Not any nods from either Mamta or Mayawati. We can discuss that a little bit. And there were a bunch of swearing-ins other than Kamalnath in Chhattisgarh. Bhupesh Baghel was sworn in, Ashok Gehlot was sworn in Rajasthan, and Sachin Pilot as a deputy, and KCR was sworn in Telangana. Also, something I'd like to get the panel's view on is the photograph of Manohar Parrikar with the tubes coming out. Madhu, you have some experience of medical science because you're married to a doctor.
I have none.
India mein to aise hota hai. Now, let me start with you, Madhu. You, of course, were you in Delhi when 84 happened?
No, I was in New York.
Oh, you were in New York. But
And there were no TV channels other than Doordarshan. So there's very little video coverage of that period. If Newstrack had been existing, or if it was like what it is today, there would have been an outrage right then. But a lot of it was just rumor. And what people... I was watching Connaught Place burn on CNN in New York. And my father's office is also in Connaught Place. And I was watching Marina Hotel burn. And it's right the next block from my father. So I called him up and he said, nahi, yahan sab kuch, he was at home. He said, nahi, yahan sab kuch theek hai, kuch nahi ho raha.
the television
He
was
had no
showing.
idea. And I said, no, Connaught Place is burning.
So,
And also when Indira Gandhi died, it wasn't like everyone got to know like we get to know today. When somebody passes away, it was all rumor.
By word of mouth.
Yeah, it was just... And
वैसे today also, I mean, Bal Thackeray की कितनी अटकलें हैं. I mean,
No, but still-
did he die 48 hours before they announced it?
No,
Were they
that's
putting-
different. That they hold it back
Jayalalitha,
themselves.
exactly.
But there's always... Now the reporters, our media is powerful enough to report things as it happens. And in those days...
Of course, there was only
there's no
Doordarshan, so
comparison.
there was no chance.
In fact, Suman Dubey told me that he was editor of India Today at that time. He drove past All India Institute and he saw a big crowd there. And a crack editor reporter that he was didn't stop to wonder कि क्या हो रहा है. And it was...
But I just want to ask you one thing. Like I was reading on Twitter a few journalists saying that back then, apart from the Indian Express, none of the newspapers really reported on the riots in the way they should have.
No, they
and no one
didn't.
implicated Congress.
No,
for
they didn't. I wasn't here, so I don't know. But certainly Congress was not implicated at that time. It was not done.
Raman sir, you were
But a
in
good
town.
report to read today in today's paper. I would recommend reading Ritu Sareen's report in Indian Express called "The Black Smoke Billowed." It's worth reading. My regret is that Indian Express has a word limit. This required a much longer piece, which obviously she did know a lot more than what she was able to put in this. But it's a short piece, but it's really moving. And another film to recommend on this is by Shonali Bose called Amu.
That's it. Raman sir, you were a journalist then, or you were still a
I
kid?
was a postgraduate student.
Okay, and you were in
And
Delhi?
yes, I was in Delhi, and we had got a DDA flat in East Delhi, Dilshad Garden. So that is the year when we shifted to Dilshad Garden. And we saw all this thing because East Delhi was the most affected area.
And was there coverage in the newspapers?
I can't recall, but I have seen half-burnt bodies in East Delhi. People had come to our area also, and they were, just picking up the Sikh families. We had hidden some of them, and it was very, very bad. The politicians, local politicians were over there. And after I became journalist, because it really affected me a lot, so I reported quite a lot.
One thing I wanted to add was that there's a Sikh family living next to my parents' house. And they stayed in my parents' house in the living room, living on mattresses for 10 days after that. And when we moved to India, which was in 1988, we moved in. And as we were moving in, there was a Sikh family who are our direct neighbors. And the man came across and he said, we're glad you're moving in, this and that. And then he brought up the subject, agar kuch danga ya kuch hoye, to hum aapke ghar mein aa sakenge na.
They had kind of
So I
figured
said,
this is going to
No,
happen.
then I told him the story that yes, my father did give refuge and so there's no problem there. On the other hand, somebody called a friend who was a neighbor of a Sikh family and they said, please can you give them refuge? And the neighbor refused. They said they were celebrating by passing around mithai and we saw it.
Which a lot of people did. But
And so we're not going to give them any refuge.
No, it went on for 3 days. And fourth day, there was a army, they marched in.
Flag march हुआ था.
Flag march हुआ. उसके बाद these army people were also telling us कि अब we had given you 3 days. 3 दिन दिए तुमको. तो अब कुछ नहीं करने का.
Which is similar to the Gujarat
So what
story.
I'm trying to say that the police, the army, everybody knew about it. Everybody let it happen. And at that time, the loyalists of the Gandhi family were H.K.L. Bhagat, this guy Sajjan Kumar,
In fact,
Titler, Dharamdas Shastri. So these were the people who were implicated.
I've done one of the last few interviews of H.K.L. Bhagat actually was done by me. But I'll just come to that later. Manisha, why don't you start off on, does anyone have anything to say on the farm loan waiver? I mean, we've had discussions on that the last 2 days.
I think it's a wonderful competition.
What is?
Farmers are benefiting. Sub they're competing to maaf karo loans. Fine. But I don't think, of course, is not the solution, because the problem is not just the loans. The problem is the root cause of the loans, and that is because of the middleman, the mandi pricing, all that. That has not been resolved.
Yeah.
Unless they resolve that, the loans mean nothing in the long term for farmers. So it doesn't resolve the problem at all. It's okay as a short term thing, and how they're going to pay for it through the exchequer is a bit of a problem.
I think this is a debate where both parties after a point cannot punch each other, because I think between Maharashtra and which is the other BJP ruled state, UP
also
the total comes to 70 or 80,000 crores.
No, 70 alone in Maharashtra.
So between the two it comes to 1,40,000, and same between Madhya Pradesh and what they're promising in Gujarat comes
And
to around
Rajasthan.
the same. Rajasthan, it comes to the same. So, but I think this is something that I've not been able to understand. I think Vivek wrote a piece for us on
he's
this.
written two very detailed pieces on
I read the anar jo hai, that guy is not being able to sell anar. Pyaz at 2 rupees a kilo, aloo at 1 rupee a kilo, tomato at 4 rupees a kilo. By the time it comes to us, it's 20, 30, 40.
Yeah.
So it's just warehousing. Is that the only problem? Because they have
It's
to
the
sell it.
middleman. They've been saying that. They've been saying that repeatedly. That it's the middlemen that they
Mandi
make the
pricing
money,
has to
then
be
the
fixed.
shopkeepers, and the farmer gets next to nothing.
It's because the farmer has to sell his produce, right? But if
They have to have a fixed price.
But if they had
for the
warehousing,
farmers.
no,
And the warehousing is a big problem.
because then he says, okay, I won't sell, because because he has to sell it, otherwise it'll rot. But if he has a warehouse there, then he says, okay, fine, I'll just put it in the warehouse, I won't sell. I mean,
But there's one thing that I think we should factor in on this in terms of why do we need short-term solutions, is because the rural distress is really insane. When you read stories from the protest marches that have happened, or generally also, I was reading a piece in the Mint where this guy who's done his MA in commerce, he couldn't get a job, so he's come back to his farmland and he's working on the farm, and they have a 6 lakh debt, and they have a younger son to educate, so they're spending around 12,000 per month. Every family, even 2 hours away from Delhi, you go to Sonipat, this is a story in every family that no one wants to work on the farms because there's just no more money, and everyone has a debt. And which is why then you have something like a Jat, reservation protest, because no one wants to be a farmer anymore. Everyone wants government jobs. And when you have something like a demonetization, happen, and you have agricultural ministry in November, they were coming out with a report that was saying that how badly it had hit small farmers. They reversed that report. They didn't let it come out. But when you have something like that really, pushed the farmer, I think it's also the government's job to then help out a little bit, even in the short term.
It's not just an economic decision.
She's touched on 3-4 very important points, including the demonetization, as well as a report which they held back. So these are issues which actually somebody should
And
do
farmers
an
will have to pay
investigation.
rent for the warehouse.
Yeah.
The warehouse is not at their disposal.
Sure.
So they are forced to sell
But
off
they
their
should give loans
produce.
so they can build their warehouses. That would be at
No,
least
I mean, there
some
can be
foresight.
huge government
Long-term.
warehouses, and you can just, rent out your space. It can be like but the point is that warehouse should exist. And even if they have to pay rent, they have some negotiation capacity. If I know by tomorrow, sitting out in the open, my produce is going to rot, then I'm much weaker than if I say, okay, fuck off, I'll put it in the warehouse. There is this thing.
No, I think if I did one story very long time ago for the Indian Express when the tomato hit 100 rupees. So I went to Junjunwala, where we used to have the local production. It used to come to Ayatpur market. So I went to a farmer's house. I stayed at his house. And I
Followed the produce. How does it go?
So it changed. Middleman is the
Biggest problem.
actual problem. So how from 5 or 10 rupees, from 10 it became 100 rupees.
So is it possible that News Laundry also kind of sets up one vertical where we do this middleman thing, then people don't have to subscribe to us.
Yes.
That's a plan.
But then you will lose out, na? You will be the farmer earning 2 rupees for your news. The middleman will take away everything.
But as an entity, News Laundry will be sustainable then.
No, agriculture is not sustainable.
No, I'm the middleman. Dude,
You want to be the middleman. Okay. You can be the middleman.
I have a point of the farm loans thing, which I always find interesting, how agriculture and farming coverage is so dominated by the farm loans thing. And I think one part of it is for sure the distress is so high that it needs farm loans are not a solution, but they're an immediate balm that provides some relief. But I think that we also suffer from not talking about the rest of the thing, like middlemen or warehousing or rural unemployment or a lack of agricultural productivity. Even if you see news coverage, and sorry to put another statistical plug from Media Cloud, but in the last 1 year, since the start of 2018, 25% of all coverage on farming and agriculture has been farm loans. But mentions of rural unemployment, agricultural productivity, all has been less than 0.2%.
0.2%?
Less than that, which means that we're not even addressing these root causes.
In the media.
They aren't conversations.
They're not conversations, and it's also understandable that they're not sexy topics to an English urban audience. I get that, and maybe it's unrealistic to expect. But when we get this heightened coverage, right, when there's a moment where everyone's paying attention, during the protests, during the marches, during elections, when farm loans are a political issue, that's the time I think the news can take a little bit of advantage and say, let's push a little bit when we have attention to talk more about what the root causes are. So I think that's what makes news a little bit empowering, trying to combine those two.
So I'll just move forward with, there's this one mail from a subscriber. He said he doesn't want it to be read out, but I will share it with Madhu and Manisha because it is addressed to me, but also mentions them. And the limited point you made of we should kind of make clear our positions. I'm not sure what you mean because that's what we do in the course of Hafta. So anyway, but yeah, I'll let them read it.
It means political positions.
Yeah, but
maybe make it more clear.
But I don't think either of you have a committed
I do not have a
position.
committed political
And
position.
I will tell you who I will vote for. I'm happy to tell you, but I'm
an avowed apolitical person. I'm too old to support any political party. I've seen them come and go. My job is the same.
But those of you who want to subscribe to News Laundry, there's a good time to completely irrelevant segue to just plug it. Subscribe to News Laundry, pay to keep news free, because political parties come and go. Winter becomes spring and summer and autumn, but a subscription is forever. It's not actually, you have to renew it every month. Slime balls.
Oh God.
But do subscribe because that's the only way independent news will survive. And my recommendation has to do with this as well. Now, if I could just go into the Supreme Court ruling, would someone want to just bring us up to speed on that?
On which ruling?
Basically, the Supreme Court said that they are not going to order a probe into the Rafale case, the purchase of those aircrafts, because they said it is not for the court to decide how many aircraft should be purchased, and they can't go on a fishing trip and say ki bhai, let's see if there's anything wrong.
I think the media misinterpreted the court's judgment. They basically said that BJP has been given a clean chit, which I don't think the court said. It simply said that this is not our job.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they got a clean
They're not
chit.
an investigating body.
Yeah, they're not an investigative body, so I think that should be respected.
No.
They're not. So I think it should be taken as that an
We don't have any
investigation.
reason to investigate
First, an
as yet.
investigation should take place and then bring it to court. So you can't bring it to court just raising the question. So I think the petitioner did not do the job enough. That you can't just make an accusation without documentation, without some questions being raised. All that should have been done when they brought it to court. What do you think, Raman?
No, the Supreme Court was trying to find out if there is a prima facie reason for ordering a probe into this Rafale. And Supreme Court found that the petitioners had not given enough,
Evidence.
material evidence to order a probe. But the kind of thing that Supreme Court has said, they have picked up 2-3 points. One is like they do not see anything wrong in the appointment of this Ambani.
Reliance.
Reliance, as the partner in this Rafale
offsets.
case. So now this is not, I think this is a reliance which was never into the weaponry system, or they were never into this kind
Aviation,
of
right.
aviation. And they get such a huge 30,000 crore, I think, of project. And I personally feel that this was a good reason enough to for a problem.
I think it's a difficult one to call. Sorry, ladies, would you like to come in first?
One of the things that I'm not 100% clear on is that the centre sent the Supreme Court today or yesterday a correction about
there was a famous typo.
Right, there was something that they called an error or a typo of some sort, where they had said that the PAC had a look at the CAG report, but actually that was not the case, and the Supreme Court's judgment was based on that.
Well, not based, but that was
a part of it, rather.
But I do think in this, I'm no fan of the government, as those of you who listen to this podcast will know. What they said was that this is the process that is followed, that a CAG prepares a report. The report is submitted to the PAC, which is a Public Accounts Committee, I guess. And when they said the report is submitted, it is, if I'm explaining you a process, I'm saying the process is that, Karthik sets up, then a message is sent to us that please come, the Hafta is ready, then the recording is done. That doesn't mean it has been done. That is a process that is to be followed. So I think one could say that it's mischievous, but even if someone were to just explain the process, I think they would use this language only. They would not use any other language.
But I think there was an assumption by the court that it had been done.
The Supreme Court felt it had been done.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But the wording of at least this bit that's been made public doesn't seem that it was misleading.
What is in the public is Supreme Court's interpretation. But what was given to Supreme Court by the government was in a sealed cover. So we don't know what...
It has two things. One is the CAG report was in public domain, which it is not. There is no CAG report. Right. Okay. And the second, second is that the PAC had seen that report. Okay, so there are two elements. So how can there be a typo?
Right,
and
so there is some.
And again, this is the problem of the sealed cover. Such a mistake, if it was out in the media on that day, if this was submitted, people would have picked it up and reported and said, look, this is what the government is saying. And this is clearly not what's happening. But because it was in a sealed cover, it's...
Anushka, you saying?
No, I was saying that's fundamental to what they've said, right? Or the court's judgment or their output on this. If it's not that the PAC has not seen the CAG, that's a big missing element there.
Sure.
If tomorrow the government appoints me as a Supreme Court judge, so will it be a favor or will it not be? I'm not a lawyer. I have not done anything.
But I do think, although one of the things about this is that the part that Ambani is going to be supplying, it's not an aviation part. It is a part like, I don't know if it is a ball bearing, but for example, it could be a ball bearing that could be used in a cycle, it could be used in a screw, it could be used, like if I'm making nuts and bolts. The nuts and bolts is not really an aviation part. I don't need aviation expertise to make nuts and bolts. So what that part is also important. All of you listening in, the Chhota Hafta, do subscribe so you can listen to the entire Hafta. We will see you again next week with the Hafta. Till then, subscribe, pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Thank you. Goodbye.
All the News Laundry podcasts are available on Stitcher, iTunes, and any other podcast platform.
Please subscribe to News Laundry. Help us keep news independent. To catch all our podcasts on news, pop culture, current affairs and sport, visit newslaundry.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Sun liya Afrika, mufat khoron. Not to brag or anything, but News Laundry Hafta features in the top 50 in the world on SoundCloud in the news and politics category for podcasts. So do subscribe and see what you're missing, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Subscribe, help keep news independent and free.
All News Laundry podcasts are available on iTunes and Stitcher and any other podcast platform.